You're watching Georgia Alert. I'm Becca, and today I'm here with Tini and Marika. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Today is the 4th of July. USA is celebrating the Independence Day, and we like to congratulate them. This is a big day for USA and the whole world, because this is where the liberty has been born, the Constitution, and yeah, it's a big day. So, you go USA.
Yeah, happy Independence Day. It's very important for the whole world that the Independence Declaration exists, because we've seen the writings in there which says that every citizen should have their rights and liberties, and the government's job is to protect its liberty. And also a very important thing there, which I really love, is that every citizen has a right to have a revolution if the government, if they take away your freedoms and liberty.
Yeah, this is the words of Jefferson. He has said it in the Declaration of Independence that it is every citizen's obligation to revolt against such government which sees that to take away the fundamental rights of liberty, life, and private property. Yes, if the government acts against those interests, yeah, then we must take up arms against such government.
Yeah.
So it's a declaration of victory against imperialism, that USA has won against every odd, and it has defeated the imperialism of British Empire at the time, and they have managed to become independent and live as they want to live. That's the whole idea of liberty, basically, and dignity in law.
Yeah, happy Independence Day, United States, and Becca and Tini covered the history and liberty part pretty well. I would just like to add that for many of us in Eastern Europe, and certainly in Georgia, the United States and its leadership in the world is kind of the guarantee of our independence, because otherwise we would have already been conquered by Russia several times, probably. So the US leadership is very important, and we all hope that it continues to have this leader role in the world and does not recede into isolationism.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, our sovereignty, yes, it's dependent on our alliances with international partners, and yeah, of course.
So what was the highlight of this week?
Yes.
We had a couple of things happening. One of the most important things that we should start with, I personally think, is football. Probably because it is end for us in Euro 2024, but Georgian people don't feel defeated, they feel the victory. So it was very important dates for us in Georgia. Our football team has returned to Georgia. We had a big celebration. There was kind of misunderstandings that in the morning when they arrived at the airport, there was not any time or chance for people to meet them, but in the evening there was a big ceremony which was organized by Georgian Dream. However, Georgian Dream official Irakli Kobakhidze attended the event, and he came out with the speech. However, his speech was booed by people, and he was not able to express his views very loudly, because boos were even louder than his voice. And also President Salome Zurabishvili attended the event also, and yeah.
Her reception was much different.
Yes, I was there, and the videos do not reflect the way Kobakhidze was booed. Everything was really it seemed like a thunder of boos, and immediately the reaction momentarily changed into like wild cheering and clapping when the president assumed the stage. And yes, that's because she's the only one among the Georgian institutions that represents Georgia's European aspiration, unlike the government. So my Facebook friend posted that, so the first exit polls are in. Exactly. After this reaction. It was really cool. And just why we perceive our footballers as heroes and why we welcome them as heroes is because of this 12 years of the Georgian Dream rule that tried to subtly but surely convince Georgians that we are nothing, we don't deserve much, or we cannot be a successful country. So they sowed this defeatism and pessimism about the future. And suddenly this football victory somehow gave people the idea that we can be victorious as a country. Football is such a public sport, right? Yeah, and there's a lot of connection between football and the protests because all of this is intertwined as a emergence of new Georgia, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, football was a great event for Georgia in these months because it brought people together. Even the politicians themselves, they were attending the matches, sitting next to each other, and we saw how many people just cheered and how big was the interest towards these games that our footballers have won, and it brought up our spirits all together. And as soon as we saw them return and the politicians took the stage, we saw the division amongst the public again. We see this because these politicians, on one hand, the Prime Minister, they sanctioned the actions against the public. They were against the public, on the same public which was celebrating the victory of our footballers. Recently were run over by the government, and yes, the president on the other hand, she is supporting and vocalizing Georgian people's interest, and these footballers, let's not forget, they were competing in Euros. They took us to Europe basically, and they did their job. They represented our country, the best of our country in Europe.
Yes.
And yes, people want to see us be friends with Europe. They want their representation in Europe, and these footballers did the job of politicians basically. They are the ambassadors today. So of course they don't like the leaders, the political leaders who are opposed to all of that.
Yes, our team represented the best of Georgia, the fighting spirit, the determination, the passion, optimism, fight against all odds, and I feel like millions of people appreciated them. It's all over the news and social media, and yeah, it's very nice that the world got to know Georgia in that regard as well.
Yeah.
So let's mention that these football players are very high quality players at the moment, and their experience comes from playing in European teams. Had they remained in Russian teams, they would not have developed this much. Right now they are competing at the top level, and it's all because they are playing for European clubs like Napoli, Levante in Spain, in Italy, all over Europe basically. So also there is like a quota for these clubs. They cannot allow more than 5 players outside of EU to be within their clubs as players. So for Georgia it would be a great incentive to become part of EU for these players, because they will no longer compete with Brazilians and South Americans. Usually they're the ones who fill up this 5-player quota. So if we become part of EU, they will be just without quota. Playing more and more Georgians will be able to play in European clubs.
Yes, definitely. It's amusing in a good sense how that has become an issue. Like people also start advocating for EU through football, because football penetrates all layers of society. And I myself am among those people. So what you mentioned, the 5% quota for European clubs for non-EU citizens, that's a great incentive. And then there was also another one that the World Championship is in the United States next year, and Mexico, if I remember correctly. And and the United States promised some liberalization of visa procedures for Georgians in case this Russian law is withdrawn and we're back on the democratic track. So people were posting, you want to go to the United States without a visa for the World Cup in 2 years, so let's change the government because we need the law repealed and democracy back. That was really funny.
Another incentive for the Georgian voters. Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, another less important but still noteworthy, I'm joking of course, a very important fact that happened last week. Well, Joseph Borrell, High Representative and basically Foreign Affairs person for the European Union, stated that the European Union door will be closed for Georgia if the Georgian government does not change its course. And yeah, he said, I can say it louder but not clearer, which was one of my favorite remarks.
Yeah, regarding that, I think we'll be waiting for the upcoming steps from the EU towards that. It was his first harsh statement like that on June 24th, and after that we're waiting for the steps that EU will take for Georgian government officials. And one of the things that was mentioned here was that they're gonna stop talking to the government officials because that is what Georgian government uses for propaganda. So the talks between the EU officials and Georgian government will be stopped. This was what happened last week, and after that opposition members followed up with the declaration unity. Basically 6 opposition parties have signed this declaration: Girchi, More Freedom, DROA, UNM, Lelo, Strategy Aqmashenebeli, and Axali. And with this declaration of unity, it's like a follow-up of President Zurabishvili's charter. And this declaration says that by July 8th, there should be some kind of effective way of all the configuration that Georgian opposition will have. It does not really mean that on July 8th there will be the whole picture of what Georgian opposition will do for the upcoming elections and how the configuration will be. However, it's some kind of deadline for opposition parties to have some kind of understanding what they're gonna do together and if they're doing together. But since they signed this declaration of unity, it also says that they will be working together for the elections, and it's not just the unity part. It's about supporting a joint presidential candidate after the elections, countering Georgian dreams propaganda and election manipulation together, which is very important, and refraining from attacking each other. It's always the main thing in the opposition when opposition members attack each other while the election year. So this was one of the important points here in this declaration, and also coordinating efforts with pro-European protesters. So yeah, this was the Declaration of Unity. Today is the 4th of July. By 8th of July, we're waiting for some kind of announcement from opposition parties what's going to happen.
Yeah, the 5% threshold is pushing the pro-Western parties to align together, and yes, they're preparing united against the ruling country for the upcoming parliamentary elections. So all eyes will be on the parliamentary election on 26th of October. So we will see how the opposition will.
Oh yeah, if I might add. Sure. Just for insight about Georgia, more the number 26 has been perceived as a lucky number in Georgian society now, because we qualified for Euros on 26th of March, then the big Independence Day march, and just the Independence Day was on May 26th. We beat Portugal and advanced to the knockout stage on 26th of June, and now people are having fun, like a positive attitude that the 26th of October is going to be another victory for the people of Georgia. And another funny thing, so Georgia lost to Spain in the round of 16, 4-1, and 41 is the electoral number of the Georgian dream. So people were like, do not vote 41. You see that the combination of 4 and 1 is bad for Georgia. Yeah.
Paying attention to numerology, yes, 26 is the lucky number for Georgia. Well, recently the CEC advisory group has changed the CEC legislation. The
Central Election Commission.
Central Election Commission. They have passed the bill in the parliament, and the parliament has voted 80 votes in favor to change certain rules of operation and abolish the CEC advisory group, which consists of a representative of public defender as well as the national and international experts selected by observer organizations. Prior to the amendments, the Central Election Commission of Georgia was required to approve the composition of the CEC advisory group, which was tasked with making recommendations to the CEC regarding the dispute review process within 10 days of the call for elections. So the government is also preparing their playbook for the upcoming election. The CEC advisory group will be set up for the electoral period with no less than 9 and no more than 15 members. In the explanatory note, the amendments, the ruling Georgian Dream Party said that the group was not in fact functional, which was mainly caused by the unwillingness of the monitoring organizations to participate in the activities of this group, which is an absurd because the whole point for this commission is that the monitoring organizations have the ability to observe the elections, and if you take away this group, and also considering the recent legislation connected with the CSOs, the silencing of dissenting opinions, and this whole campaign, yes, we will need a lot of help from the international community when it comes to observing these elections and maintaining the fair atmosphere for this whole procedure. Also, they are not paying attention to the Venice Commission recommendations. On June 25th, the Venice Commission published its follow-up opinion on the draft amendments to the Electoral Code and the rules of procedure of the Parliament, stressing its concern that none of the recommendations had been taken into account by the Georgian authorities, and that the amendments to the Electoral Code were made less than a year before the elections, which undermines the public confidence. The Commission emphasizes the need for a consensus-based process for appointing non-partisan CEC members and the chairperson. It criticized the current anti-deadlock mechanism, which allows for a simple majority vote, as it risks allowing the GD to dominate the composition of the CEC, undermining its independence and public trust. While acknowledging the failure of the June 2021 arrangements, the Commission stresses that it remains the responsibility of the Georgian authorities to find an appropriate solution, provided that it ensures consensus among political actors. The Commission clarifies that while ensuring free and fair elections is a binding obligation, its recommendations are guidelines that respect Georgia's sovereignty in finding appropriate solution. So this, the Commission of Venice is a European body which, with the government's local authorities, they oversee certain constitutional reforms. They've been for years now recommending Georgia to go towards the way of consensus and do not make decisions on one-party-based stance. They have created a constitution, first of all, for one part. Basically, one party came up with this constitution. Venice Commission at that time was recommending to go the way of dialogue, consensus, and they are orchestrating this false idea of consensus, our ruling party, that they have talked with the experts, that they have spoken with the people, and everybody is aware of everything. And at the same time, we have one party decided constitution, and they never listen to this commission. And of course, at some point, the European authorities will tell the Georgian government, you're not going down the democratic way. You're doing the opposite, and we will no longer be in contact with you because you do not take into consideration anything that we recommend to you, because we have already built the democracy. We are older in this endeavor, so the whole point is to give you the recommendations which we know from experience to be good. But yes, this has been the story basically of relationship between the Venice Commission and the Georgian leaders for years now. They are yes.
And the same continued with the EU when they gave us recommendations, even though they said that nine of them has not been fulfilled, and other 3 has been fulfilled. Other 3 also was very formal. So whatever Georgian Dream does, this whole time it was all formality, that they want the EU to believe that they are doing all these reforms and they are doing good things with this reform. However, whenever they make some kind of reform, we'll know that there is a loophole behind it, and they try to use it for remaining their power and not for going towards the EU. So this is what happened with CEC. Also, and we kindly ask our international organizations and observers to pay huge attention on Georgia this year, because Georgian government will try to use every little tool to rig these elections, and this is one of the starting points for the Georgian Dream.
Yes, definitely. Election observation is going to be very important, both internal and external. So we will need lots of volunteers, like a volunteer army, to observe elections within, like from within national resources. And also, I believe that international observers should not and must not legitimize the elections for the GD if or when the elections are heavily manipulated and rigged by the government, even out of kind considerations towards the people of Georgia. So even if someone thinks that if the elections are not considered free and fair, then the country cannot progress on the European integration for a while. Well, like as I usually joke, there might not be a country to progress to Europe anymore if GD is if GD does not pay the political cost if they rig the elections. And considering the past experience and considering what is at stake for the Georgian Dream now, it's the entire governance, then it's highly likely that they will have even heavier manipulation than before. And GD's manipulation does not happen on the election day primarily. It happens long before the elections, and so with pressure, vote buying, intimidation. So it's important to have long-term observers. And about vote buying, we have some news from this week as well. For example, the government wrote off fines from COVID-19 times. So fines from 2021, the year 2021, are written off now. And more importantly, they pledged to reduce the number of prison inmates by 1/3 now in the immediate run-up to the elections. So it's thousands of persons with their families and their friends who are who the government thinks that they can win their sympathies and affect the election outcome also in that way. We also have a pledge to have salaries raised for teachers and so on. So this there are bits of different kinds of vote buying attempts and manipulations happening. That's what's public and announced, and there are many things that are done illegally completely, just talking to someone privately and offering them some benefits or threatening them with some negative outcomes in case they
we know how the Georgian Dreams pillars work. They stand on different pillars, and one of them is prisoners also. And we know that for every election year we get amnesty for prisoners before the elections, and they're the ones usually who are mobilizing votes in their streets. And I want to also mention that I was born during the last government, UNM, and I felt that the whole yes, I was not born actually. I was raised. Like I don't.
I was thinking how old you are.
My whole conscious life, I don't remember anything. I remember from the Misha Saakashvili.
Yes.
My politic life started from that. So so during my childhood, I remember that this kind of street mugs and people who used to be on the streets and doing illegal stuff, they were just removed from the streets. And now we face these people who are in Georgia, from Russia also, who are like they are what they are called.
Thugs? Yeah, I think it's thugs.
Thieves in law.
No,
thieves in law.
Thieves in law. Thief in law.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like Russian thing that
Yes.
It's a criminal
Stalin did.
organization, yeah.
It's like criminal guys that Stalin did during his time. But till now in Georgia, I've heard that lots of them who were in Russia, they're coming back to Georgia, and they're the ones who are organizing for the elections in their own streets and with relatives. So I wanted to mention that for now Georgia is rather not safe for this kind of for regular citizens than it was before during the last government, because now Georgian government does amnesty for every prisoner who might be able to participate in elections, and that's what they are hoping for. And the exact same is with teachers also.
I will add on top of that, if I may. I am older than you, and I remember the previous government as well. But the interesting thing is 2012 statistics. Actually, during that time, about every third Georgian citizen had a problem with the court or knew somebody who had a problem with the court. So it came down to the statistics, basically.
In 2012, yeah?
Yeah, 2012. We were in top 3 countries in Europe with the amount of prisoners as well. As it is today, we are also in the top countries. But at that time, it was especially obvious that that was a very big group of people. The interest group was huge. That's why they chose these prisoners. Their target audience for the electoral voters, this is their marketing after all. They made a movie about this, and that's how they won the election, because they counted the numbers. Right now, I don't think that prison population is that much of a key player in this upcoming election, because there are many different subgroups and small groups which they have managed to piss off everyone, basically, within Georgia.
Yes, exactly. There's no one big major thing.
Yes.
Like even this prison amnesty will not affect that many people. It's
kind of strategy.
Yes, part of a strategy. It's not a decisive factor, but it's just an example of a strategy.
Also, we know that their pillars, as you mentioned, is like buying off voters, intimidation. We already have seen how they react to protests and how they operate with titushkis, yes. We know their playbook. Also, they recently have adopted this censorship style, starting with the Russian law. They are continuing down this path. Now they came up with the anti-LGBT legislation package. Basically, any legislation should be aimed at solving an issue in the society, some kind of problem. The purpose of the law is that. But when it comes to this anti-LGBT legislation, it does not solve any problem because it does not exist in our society. There are no LGBT riots, there are no marriages here or something like this. Georgia is pretty much on the verge of conservatism and liberalism. It allows every human being to develop as they want. But politicians somehow manage to create this issue as if we are like ultra right-wing party that they are using this narrative that they are censoring material in the like TV or content anywhere, which
and even the right to gather,
to get everything basically, and they're pushing this narrative, and this is censorship basically. Their idea is to, at one point, on one hand, censor some content, and on another hand, this is a stunt pulled for the elections to organize the ultra right-wing people to vote for them. But they're the knights in the shining armor protecting the values of family and Georgian family values. But what Georgian families need is better economy. They need stronger connections with the Western world. They need protection, like physical protection from Russian army. They don't need like constitutional anti-LGBT legislation. This is an absurd. Also, these LGBT people, they're part of Georgian society. They're contributing to the development of our economy. They're the majority of workers in the service sector. And when the government acts like this, that they are targeting certain groups of people, they are pushing them away from the country towards immigration, and they're seeking asylum in other countries. And this is damaging to Georgian economy basically, because at some point in recent past there was a deficit in the service sector. They could not find waiters, they could not find workers, regular jobs. These are common people, and they're just targeting them for the sake of their political agendas and creating made-up problems in the society, which does not exist. We can cohabitate perfectly. We have one of the biggest clubbing culture in Georgia, this whole techno culture where both the LGBT people and pro-right, ultra-right-wing people, they just dance together, they have fun together. And instead of celebrating this unity in the society and developing this unity-based mentality, they are basically coming up with made-up conflicts.
Yeah, divide and rule.
Yes.
So that's it. And the Venice Commission was also very critical of this anti-LGBT legislation, of the so-called protection of family values and minors law. And they said that it should be withdrawn completely, or at least amended so that it doesn't violate the basic principles of European Court of Human Rights. But as we know, the Georgian Dream will not take it into consideration, and they adopted it at the first hearing this week. Another thing they did is, the Venice Commission was also critical of the abolishment of the gender quotas in the parliament. Well, gender quotas, I don't think any of our parties in principle agree with the gender quotas, but the way that they abolished it this year, it was not normal, because they abolished it for the sake of getting more of their bros into the parliament. And so this Georgian Dream, they have this some sort of a semi-feudal system in the local constituencies, and they have some members of the parliament who act as kings, basically. They are in their local constituencies, and now probably that they are expecting less members of the parliament from their party these elections. They want to get all their bros in, and the women were a big impediment in that regard. And so that's thought to be why it was abolished this year. So it was not out of any positive consideration for anyone.
It was also for, as I remember, one of the opposition parties in Georgian parliament, they did exchange it for the CEC commission member.
Girchi initiated it.
Yeah, so as they publicly said, it's not just a theory that they did it.
Yes.
They publicly said that we exchanged our vote for CEC member to gender quotas, because Girchi is the party who is against the quotas. So it was one of the reasons, maybe also.
Yes, just for the viewers, Girchi and Girchi More Freedom are different. Girchi More Freedom is good.
Like Trump says, good, bad, good, bad.
As not a member of Girchi and as a member of Troa, I allow myself to say that Girchi More Freedom is good. Just Girchi.
Girchi is parliamentary opposition. Yeah, they are in parliament, and yes, they are sometimes in agreement with the ruling party.
Yes.
They are trading on laws, on legislation, and this is the legislation they traded votes. Yes.
Yes. Well, we believe, and like Troa and Girchi More Freedom believe that no cooperation with the Russian regime is acceptable.
Ideologically, yes, this gender equality and this kind of quotas are, yes, against our ideology, like libertarianism against right-wing ideology. But there's a time for ideology and there's a time for consequentialism.
Yes, exactly.
When the consequences of these actions enable the government to turn the tables for their benefit and make it easier for them to rule the country, that it is not a good trade, in my opinion.
Plus, it was in the EU recommendations as well that we should
of course,
have had.
We have already established that they are
so we
not
could
following
not
the
just say no
recommendations.
to gender quotas, even though ideologically I also don't believe in quotas. However,
I don't think this is that much of an issue as
yes,
at
exactly.
this point.
It's a consequentialist and like why and what's the procedure. But also they were the ones who adopted the quotas and they they said that it was necessary for empowering and strengthening females. And now they suddenly say that the goal has been reached. Now all women in Georgia are fine, they have no problems anymore, so no place for the quota anymore, and that's not how it works. And I think restoration of the quotas is going to be probably part of the next democratic government, because the president also backs the quotas, and I suppose other parties do.
Other parties also,
The ruling party, yes, that's the MO, but they give you something and they take away and they promise to give it back to you, like the prisoners. They're the ones who arrested these people in the first place by the legislation. Now they are promising their liberty back. They're the ones who came up with this gender quotas in the first place. Now they took it away because they're acting from the stance of consequentialism, but from their own partisan ideology.
Exactly.
Not for the general common sense. Yes.
And with women, I think we do really have a problem with women, not just in politics, but generally. We see every day that there are killings of women at their own homes, so there are domestic violence every day happening in Georgia, and it's really a problem. But we should see what is the real answer to that problem. How can we fix it? It's not about quotas, and it's not about formal things. It's about education and how we raise our children in the future. So I think the most important thing here is how we raise and what kind of education we give to our children, and that will change this reality. Only that can change this reality. Otherwise, we'll still be in patriarchy, which is happening all over the world, not just Georgia.
Yes, exactly. So those women who are now in the parliament representing the Georgian dream, I personally cannot be cannot see them as female role models and power, because they just enable this very conservative, patriarchal, Russian-style government, and the toxic side of the church. I mean this, I myself am a believer, but I mean this toxic part of this very patriarchal part in the church. So Nino Tsilosani and Mariam Lashki and others who are female and women but they're not in the best interests of anyone in society, I think. So a few months ago, the Mamukam Dinaradze is one of the key members of the Georgian Dream. He even questioned whether single mothers should be allowed to have children, basically.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And then he had to apologize, but still. And then there was also an issue about abortion rights. So if the Georgian Dream stays in power, basically, it's not going to be only Lukashenko. It's going to be a mix of Lukashenko and Ramzan Kadyrov in Chechnya because of their anti-female, anti-women attitudes and this very conservative understanding of society. And I'm sure that if they just outlaw single mothers, there's Lashki and Ilosani and all of those female representatives in the parliament would vote for these bans. Just because their party tells them to.
And we'll remember Bidzina's first joke.
So I'm simply saying that actually I'm not like dead set on yes, my instinct is not to support gender quotas, but like I feel like it's not the issue that I would like debate and go against or go for. So it's beyond me. Please decide the quotas without me.
Yeah, there are much harder
problems in the country. But I'm just saying what Tini was saying, that it's about education. So we need to battle this toxic patriarchal system, not just with quotas, or maybe not even with quotas at all, but with some other measures. And the Georgian Dream government, they're not implementing any measures, and now they even removed quotas that they first claimed that it was to strengthen females.
I think they are also acting here from the point of consequentialism, but their own experience. I think they could not. They could not control Salome Zurabishvili. I think that's why they decided to let's forget about this female empowerment and let's get the guys who are submissive to us, who have been known to play the team game, and let's get our bros in the parliament. So I think they're coming from that point of view.
They got scared of strong male.
Exactly, strong independent girl boss.
I'm not also of the idea that the gender should be a deciding factor if somebody is elected or not, but for sure females, their interest must be represented in the politics.
Definitely,
and these politicians are not representing anybody's interest, to be fair, not females, not males, not any group. They are representing their own interests, their own agenda to remain in power.
Exactly.
And that's why they enacted such laws. They changed this law because it's easier for them this way. So they don't have to find female loyal members, which are not that many female politicians. They already have certain females on their side. So why bother finding and getting such candidates who the public will receive as well, when you can act in this fake alpha male type of rhetoric? And they're not alpha males. Looking at them, they're the most submissive males I have ever seen, because they took the permission from their leader to go on stage when they were nominated for the candidate of prime minister.
Yeah.
Yes.
They are so submissive that this is not going to fly.
I'll just quickly mention this and then let you go on to another point. So the parliament passed amendments to the pension fund in the third and final hearing. Basically, the pension fund of Georgians, young Georgians and middle-aged Georgians mostly, because those who already receive pensions, they are not included in the program. So our pension savings will now have a huge governmental control, unlike before, and the president even called the law malicious, and vowing to abolish them alongside other Russian-style laws like the foreign agents and this LGBT when the government changes. So yes, we fear that our pension savings can be used as a government like a cushion, some sort of a reserve money to use against us in the streets for crackdowns or others. That's it, basically.
Yeah. So we're kind of like in a gridlock. where we get new laws every other month that
it's
we
like
don't
in
want.
Harry Potter, you know, the Dolores Umbridge puts up a new declaration.
Yeah, it's like new one and new one every day. So on June 27th, also the Parliament of Georgia approved one of the pillars of Georgian Dream is the justice system. So on this day, Georgian Dream approved the appointment of 3 new judges to the Supreme Court, Judges Badri Shonia and Gocha Jerianashvili were appointed with 78 votes, and their lifelong mandate will take effect from October 18 this year. So from this year, we'll have 3 new lifelong judges appointed by the Georgian Dream only. And also one of them, Gizo Bilawa, was appointed with 80 votes. He had more votes and his mandate will start immediately. The judicial watchdog, Georgian Court Watch, has issued a statement regarding the Parliament's official filling of 27 out of 28 seats of lifelong judges of the Supreme Court of Georgia. This watchdog said that with this decision, Georgian Dream effectively completes the process of staffing the Supreme Court with the lifetime judges it wants. And yes, it's well, we all know that for a long time Georgian Dream has gained all the powers in the Supreme Court, and even though Georgian, like every Georgian citizen, does not feel this fear from the Supreme Court, however, lots of the activists who has been to the court even once, they know what's going on there. We face police who lies in front of the court every single process. This kind of things happen. So Georgian Dream gained all of its power by Supreme Court and by the court. So this is one of the most important things for me. I think for the opposition it should be the main important thing, because that's how Georgian government remains the power. And we should talk a lot about what should happen to the justice system and how we should change it, so that no one in this country, none of the parties will ever have a chance to gain all the power from the Supreme Court.
At this point, I think the whole opposition is already given up on the court system, because we know it does not exist here. And as long as the parliament is in the power, the ruling party is in the power to decide single-handedly who is a judge and who is not, there will not be a court. There will be a partisan-struck system, and they will appoint the members who have previously worked for the system, who have been known to be good workers of the system. They are legal professionals, by all means. They've been working in the prosecution and other departments of the system, and they will always remain loyal to the system. That's why they choose such candidates, and it's disappointed that the defender's office and the Georgia has a system of defenders. The what's the name? The yes.
Defenders in the court?
No, yes.
Public defender?
No, not public defender. The lawyers, the defenders.
Which are from the government side?
No, from the solicitors, which are, they have the body as well, the organization for the Georgian lawyers.
Maybe we look it up.
They're not part of this discussion. They're not trying to become judges themselves. They're not demanding that judges should also be represented from the defense lawyers. I mean, the advocates. So they have their own system, but the defenders, they would just rather be friends with the prosecution, and that's the Georgian court system. A defense lawyer is a friend of a prosecution who tries to bargain a plea deal and finish the case. Basically, Georgian court is that, pleading for how much will the defender pay to gain back the liberty. There is no justice in that whole procedure. If somebody tries to argue justice, he is deemed as a provocator, because this is not how it's done. This is not the tradition of the system. So what Georgian court needs is more players outside of the system, more judges who have not served in the system, who might be looking at the facts of the case from the point of a independent arbiter. Yes, all governments want to keep this power. Of course, it's a good bite for them to have the leash on these judges and Supreme Court, but there is no democracy without the justice system, and we must rebuild this system from the scratch. The judges who are appointed for lifelong, yes, in the US it's a similar situation. The Supreme Court justices are appointed for lifelong mandate.
But it's chosen differently. Yeah?
Of course, there's a public hearing. All the judges are known for their ideologies. We know what the judges actually believe in, why they are chosen. Sometimes there have been scandals on these public hearings, like Justice Thomas.
We also had actually public hearings, but it was very funny. Like, you would watch it and just have a laugh at like how crazy this can be, that some of them even didn't have certificates of the diplomas from the universities, and they just managed to falsify it somehow. So it was crazy.
Of course, the candidates who end up for these hearings, they are chosen from the perspective of who is a loyal member of the system, who will play along, who has proven by the years of working under different departments of the system to remain a loyal servant for the system. And the US system is different. The US looks at the actual legal experience, like what does this professional believe in, what's his stance on certain issues, societal issues, whether it's marriage or criminal law, whatever. So, and their character also is put to test. What kind of person they are. Will they be loyal to the actual court? Will they have strong enough mentality to say no to any kind of pressure, no matter who is the president? So that's what differentiates American system to the Georgian system. We can compare it in many ways, but we need individuals who are outside of the system, in the court, to have a court system. Otherwise, it's just a parliamentary branch, a notariate bureau, who just affirms the decisions of the prosecution and, yes, the government.
And the same happens with sheriff's department as well, and I think there should be a sheriff's department when we change this system and when we go to a new level of Georgian society where we'll have democratic parliament. We should have a sheriff system also, because the police is in the same. Police also serves for justice, and for now, police only serve for Bidzina Ivanishvili, who gives out orders what they should do. So this is one of the important topics as well that opposition should work on.
Police is part of the decentralization of power. That falls into that narrative, because right now police serves as centralized power. They are in a hierarchy of order which comes down from the government, and they are just acting on orders. Whereas in US, the local people know their sheriffs, know their policemen, and they have a different relationship
and they
with them.
choose them.
Yes, they choose them. That's the point, that you should be able to give power, that power of violence and protection of the law, to the person that you trust. No Georgian person trusts police in Georgia, because they're not chosen by the people or represented from the parties. They are just appointed from the system, who thinks they will protect the power of the system. And that's what the experience has been in Georgia. That's why we need the decentralization of power. and ultimately this police system, we can switch it into the sheriff departments, these police stations, that would enable the police themselves to do their job and be proud of their jobs as well, their position in life. It's an honorary position to be like protecting other people, and the relationship will change. There will be more trust between the society and police, and there will not be such tension as it is on every election, every like protests and such things. Yes, we need representatives in the police, this kind of system.
That's why we adore U.S. Independence Declaration, and one of the things that is written there is that there should be a limited government, and especially for the post-Soviet countries, it's very important because we face the threat of the Russia every day, and we never know when the Russia decides to send a guy in Georgia to be in the parliament and do the will of the Russian people, Putin. Not Russian people. So limited government is very important, that in the future no one should ever have a chance to somehow gain all the power and be Russia's puppet or anything like that. So for post-Soviet countries it's even more important for a limited government than in other countries which are already democratic.
Yeah, so speaking of Russia, in the Georgian there is this expression when you are talking about something negative and that negative suddenly pops up,
speak of
a dog. Unfortunately, dog is in a negative sense. So speaking of a dog, Russia. So there is apparently some Georgian political party that we've never even heard of. I suppose you will agree, the Solidarity for Peace Party, that addressed Vladimir Putin with a request to abolish all sorts of visas for Georgians. And also they, I think they have the initiative to restore diplomatic relations. Yeah, it's their initiative to restore diplomatic relations between Georgia and Russia. However, like usually in such matters, these formal initiatives are unimportant. Like no one would come up with it on their own. It's top down, and the top dictates to the down what to do. So it's probably in Russia's agenda to restore diplomatic relations with Georgia. I don't know, because Russian language Telegram channels have been entertaining this idea of restored diplomatic relations the entire June now. So I don't know, there are some gossips brewing that is being prepared. And Maria Zakharova, the spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia, she said that, of course, the initiative is welcome to restore diplomatic relations, and she underlined that it wasn't Russia to cut it off initially anyway. It was the Saakashvili's regime. They love calling Saakashvili's regime to underline that it was some sort of illegitimate or what, I don't know. Anyway, so yes, it's noteworthy that until very recently there was this background talks that the Georgian Dream's last card at the elections would be some sort of a vague confederation or territorial integrity thing with the breakaway Abkhazia and South Ossetia, which are occupied by Russia. But that was, but the Russians are openly criticizing such talks. So probably it's not really possible or planned, but instead of that, this normalization of relations, like embassy might be. However, unlike territorial integrity, I don't see how embassy is popular with anyone in the Georgian society. So I don't see the electoral value in this. Maybe if they go full Belarus and crack down on all of us and make us all go into exile, then of course they will resolve relations with Russia and maybe even vote for the country to join Russia as a province. So I don't know. Anyway, yeah, that was it, I guess, about Russia.
I think the Solidarity for Peace, they have identified themselves already as to be speaking for Russian interest in Georgia, because we never heard of this group And
Yeah, who are
suddenly,
they even? I forgot to
suddenly-
Google before today.
Suddenly, Russia is taking into consideration what they have plead for, and yes, it's obvious now that okay, they are the actual foreign agents that we should be aware of, and I think Russia is competing with US. They're pushing this narrative. Oh, the US has promised you visa-free movement, better trade. We have to put something on the table as well. So I think this is done for the elections as well, of course. And this is unbelievable. That first they take away something and they bargain with it. That of course we took away your regions, and maybe if you become friends with me, I will give it back to you.
No,
This would
no,
try-
they will not, and that's
Yes.
the point, because we tried that strategy with Russia in the first years of Edward Shevardnadze in the 90s, and when it didn't work and Shevardnadze understood that no amount of compromises with Russia would result in anything tangible for Georgia, he went west. So he had I think with all criticism that is directed against him, still, like, we cannot take it away from him that he had a great political intuition and understanding, and
And the West loved him, actually.
well, yeah, he split off from this Russian influence in the late 90s. And I'm sure he would not have been a Russian slave in 2024, unlike our current government. So, yeah, and...
the US has a great policy internationally that they do not negotiate with terrorists. So I think we should learn from that. Yeah.
Yeah,
There
you
is
cannot-
negotiations in
Yes.
war, and there is negotiation with the person who is just does not recognize any line, and they can cross any line at any time.
Yeah,
so you cannot
they-
rely on their word that
we
they will
cannot be
follow up.
Chamberlains and
Yes.
make some unique agreements. Actually, there was one more beating of. He's not even an activist. He's a friend of an activist who simply attended protests, Larry Darjania, and he was beaten up by 7 titushki. So we can imagine the level of violence and just lawlessness at this point, that it's not even an activist. So not even friends and acquaintances or anyone of activists and the politicians are safe from this regime.
Yeah, and there have also been some of the activists who have been fined as well. They've started the trials like 2 months ago, but it was still ongoing, and now they
Yeah.
finished and they got fined as well. So yeah, I think this was all.
Just one more, maybe.
Yeah,
that,
if you guys want
There
to
was
add
an
anything.
ambassador who resigned, I think.
Yeah,
after the
which was very
president's
unclear
address.
last time, and
Yes.
now I understand what happened.
Yeah, on June 21, President Zurabishvili addressed Georgia's ambassadors, starting the time to choose had already come, unlike the general population who would go to polls on October 26. After this statement, the ambassador to Slovenia, Irakli Kopladze, resigned.
And the last news probably, so Transparency International Georgia did a research, and out of 15 parties, the Georgian Dream Party gets 62% of all donations, so all political
yeah.
donations. So sometimes when people ask me, like, how did it happen that in Georgia you have a pro-Russian government, I answer several things. Well, one is the electoral system, because this mixed member proportional representation is the in 2016, for example, the Georgian Dream got 48% of all votes, but the entire parliament, the constitutional majority, at the expense of single-member constituencies like majoritarians, because like when you add all majoritarians to a bit less than half of proportional votes, and they did have lots of leverage to pursue, to ensure the victory of all their single-member constituencies. That's how you get a disaster in the parliament, and that's also what happened with Hungary, by the way. They have the same electoral law. Second is the hyper-centralization of Georgia. Like anything the regions do, anything any village does, they take permission from Tbilisi, and this also makes administrative resources very centralized. then there is also what I call like illusion of security, because no one could expect, not many people could expect that any government would dare counter Georgia's very deep pro-European orientation. And last but not least, probably the most important, the material resources of the Georgian dream. But they have disproportionate resources over everything. And I think it was in 2015, for example, so like 2-3 years after they were in power, Bidzina Ivanishvili's, the oligarch's personal wealth and asset ratio towards the GDP of Georgia was 35%, according to Radio Free Europe. So, like, you can imagine the entire, like, resources and the government centralization and all of it. And on the other hand, we only have ourselves with empty hands, the very pro-European population, and media, which exists despite Georgian dream, not thanks to Georgian dream. We somehow managed to survive and save some of our independent media and CSOs, which are a big headache for the Georgian dream, and now we see a full-blown crackdown on that.
With the help of the West, and that's what they are blocking right now.
Yeah.
But with the GD's 62%, that's what usually Georgian Dream does. They start a project in every city. They give businesses money to implement the projects, to do streets or to do water constructions, and then they implement these things, which are usually done very poorly. We've seen lots of cases when these kind of projects in Tbilisi and other regions, it ended in a disastrous way. And these businesses give those money back to Georgian Dream every month. So we see lots of businessmen who take money from the Georgian Dream, earn some money, but other money that they have left, they give it back to the Georgian Dream, and that's how Georgian Dream operates.
And not having any independent money in Georgia and everyone being vulnerable to state crackdown is the reason why all CSOs depend on Western funding, basically.
It's GD, and Bidzina Ivanishvili is a big player. His wealth is incomparable to the GDP of Georgia, of course, but when it comes to global politics, he's not that much of a big player, and that's why they would rather choose the way of isolationism, and they would isolate Georgia from everyone to have the upper hand on top of everybody. But if we remain close with Europe, with Western world, he's not that big of a threat. He's not that big of a player, and right now especially, the majority of people, we have already seen this time and again, that they don't have the numbers, they don't have the majority of voters. Actually, they are the minority, and the majority of Georgian people, they have different values, they want different future. We want actual united front, united parties who work for us, who work for Georgian interests, to take us closer to Europe, to Western road. And we do not want isolationism, and we do not want to remain bros with Putin and his,
we cannot be Switzerland.
Yes, we cannot stay one-on-one with Russia, we understand. And yes, also we are a good ground for democracy to flourish, because we are a young republic with history, a rich history, and for the world, we are a good example of how democracy can ultimately win, how the will of people ultimately can decide the fate of the entire nation. And yes, if anybody believes in liberty, democracy, the Western values, Georgia is the country to watch, and Georgia is the country to support at this time, during this election. So
very
stay
special
tuned.
that what happens in Georgia will affect what happens in other states where illiberal actors are very eager to get into power and stay in power. So
So stay tuned. It will be interesting in Georgia.
yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
watching.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week, and happy Independence Day once again.
See you next week.
Happy Independence Day.